everyone. Welcome to this month's episode of Real Simple, where I simplify all things real estate. So we are talking about contracts. There are two major contracts in a real estate transaction: the exclusive right to buy or sell real estate and the contract to buy and sell real estate. So the first one we covered last month, which is the contract between you and me. So you as the seller or the buyer and myself. So that's the agency contract that just kind of breaks down our relationship and then what you're looking for if you're buying or selling, like what the purchase price is, information about your home, all that kinds of stuff. But that is the contract between you and me. So this month, we are talking about the contract to buy and sell real estate. This is the contract between buyer and seller. So I am not really a party of this transaction. This is really between buyer and seller. Obviously, I am the one putting it together and providing it, and there is a section that I do have to sign and whatnot, but really this is the contract between buyer and seller. So when you're submitting an offer, you are submitting the contract. So obviously all parties' names are going to be at the top of this contract, so the buyers and the sellers. We go down the contract and we find the dates and deadlines. So this is one of the most important part of the contract and what you'll hear me say a lot. So the dates and deadlines are the deadlines as to which buyer or seller have to meet during the under contract period. So things like when the title records are due, the tax certificate, the appraisal, when the appraisal has to be completed and received by, when the inspection has to be completed by, when the inspection objection and resolution, and the closing date. So there's a bunch of other dates in there, but those are some of the ones that should sound familiar to you guys, hopefully, especially if you've watched previous videos of mine. But so closing date and acceptance date. So the acceptance deadline is when the seller has to say yes or no to your offer. So they need to sign the contract if they're going to accept the offer by that acceptance deadline. You're also going to have your purchase price and terms. So how much you're offering. So this obviously is a big part. So are you offering asking price, above, below? This is where you're going to put in that purchase price, as well as your down payment, which will also show your cash to close. So how much cash you're bringing to the closing table, essentially. Because if you're getting a loan, it'll also have your loan amount in there. So kind of all that stuff. This section also will have seller concessions. So if the buyers are asking for seller concessions up front, that's going to be in the contract. Who's holding the earnest money, that kind of stuff. So there's, like I said, a bunch of legal stuff. This contract is 24 pages long. So it's a beast, which is why I can't go over every single thing right now, just because we would be here for, it usually takes about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on what questions you have and whatnot, which I'm happy to do, but this just isn't the time for that. At the end of the contract is the additional provisions. So this is anything that the buyer wants to add in or anything that needs to be disclosed, like if the agent owns the house or if the agent is working with a family member. So if I was working with one of my family members and working for them, I would just disclose that this is a family member, just so that people know and there's no bias questions or anything like that later on. You're just covering all your bases. If there is going to be a post-occupancy agreement, so that is where basically the sellers rent back from the buyers after the closing. We saw a lot of this in 2021, a little bit last year, but basically buyers needed to buy a home, but because the market was so crazy, sellers couldn't really look for their next home until they were under contract. So sometimes the sellers needed a week or two in their house to close on their new house and pack everything up and get out. So things were just moving so quickly that sellers kind of needed that leeway there. So all of that information is going to be in this contract. There is a separate form for the post-occupancy agreement, but there's a box that is checked in the contract to buy and sell that says there is going to be a post-occupancy agreement. Another thing is any inclusions or exclusions are going to be listed in the contract. So if there were any personal belongings or anything that the seller wants to give to the buyer or have already stated that are included in the sale, like washer and dryer, maybe big pieces of furniture, extra refrigerators and freezers like in the garage or in the basement or something like that, you're gonna want to make sure that the buyer's agent is listing that information in the inclusions. And as a seller, you're going to want to make sure that when you receive that offer, that for anything that is excluded, like if you have any lighting fixtures, you really like this lighting fixture that you put in, you definitely want to take it to your new house, then you'll want to include that in the listing as an exclusion. And then you want to make sure that the buyer's agent puts that lighting fixture under exclusions so that the buyer doesn't expect that lighting fixture to be there when you move out. So those are a lot of the important parts of the contract to buy and sell real estate. Again, this is the contract between buyer and seller. There's a whole bunch of legal jargon, obviously, that talks about how to terminate the contract, what happens with the earnest money, mediation, and each of those contracts, the contracts to buy and sell real estate can be different depending on if you are buying land or a condo or whatever. There's different things that you can specify depending on the situation. Like if you have a well, that's going to be in there, stuff like that. So also another thing is that the way title is going to be transferred is also included in this contract. So one, if the buyers are going to be joint tenants, or tenants in severalty, or those I can explain at a later time, but how you're taking title, and then to the kind of deed. So special warranty deed, general warranty deed, bargain and sale deed, quit claim deed. There's a bunch of different deed types when it comes to transferring property, which that's a whole nother video in itself also. But that is going to be stated in this contract as well. So that is the contract to buy and sell real estate. If you have questions, let me know. And again, if you want me to do a deep dive with you and go over the contract before you even get into the buying or selling realm, I am happy to do that. Again, it's a 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on the questions, process to go through that full 24-page contract, but I am definitely happy to do it. Next month in Real Simple, I'm going to be focusing on my buyers, and we're going to be talking about showings. So showings aren't just walking through a home and then, moving on to the next one or whatever. Sometimes they are quicker than others, but I'm going to kind of do a dive into what a showing is, what we're looking for, how that whole process works and everything. So if you are looking to buy anytime soon, make sure to tune in next month for Real Simple. I'll see you guys later.